We are back in it. We are now like 1.5% done with Inuyasha. Probably not even that.
Probably not even that.
0.7% of the way through Inuyasha.
Yay.
As we are welcoming you to episode number 2 of Jared and Now Watch Inuyasha. I'm Jared, joined as always by Doc Al and Ladium.
Hello.
We are discussing season 1, episode number 2. It's called Seekers of the Sacred Jewel. Sounds like a mid-90s after-school children's live-action show that you would watch on Fox Kids.
That's very specific.
It would come on right after Power Rangers.
Amazing.
Maybe like slot in right between like Power Rangers and then Seekers of the Sacred Jewel and then Beetleborgs.
Amazing.
Here to tell you about bad Americanized Sentai shows in the mid-90s.
I didn't watch any of that.
Oh man, you missed out clearly.
Obviously.
This is episode number 2 of Inuyasha, and we're going to tell you about it. Got some crows in this episode. I'm a crow. We begin this week's episode by telling you, or just getting back
literally
into...
where we left off.
Yes, exactly. That's what I was meaning to say. We pick things right back up from the cliffhanger of last week where Inuyasha's like, I want the jewel. And then he's like, oh, I'm going to chase you into a forest.
Yay. As you do.
Kaede brings out the beads of subjugation.
Mm-hmm.
And then throws them on Inuyasha's neck. Like, yeah. She eats them on there. Not really, but that would have been way cooler.
She basically does. She magics them onto his neck and tells Kagome, like, hey, use a word to make those work.
She's like, sit, boy.
And she first is like, what word do I use? What? And then she like looks at his ears and she's like, oh,
he's
sit,
a dog.
boy.
And it just like, whoop, just smashes his face into the ground repeatedly.
Yep, repeatedly. And he tries to take it off Kate. He's like, no, how about that? Sorry, buddy. It's basically like his own cone of shame.
Basically, except just, he doesn't have to wear a cone.
Yeah, but she does like sit boy him enough that he like falls into the river.
It's true. He breaks through a bridge and falls into the river, which is a lot.
A lot.
We go to the next day where everyone in the village is cleaning up because, oh god, the village got really messed up. Kaede's like, hey, a lot of people are going to try and come get this jewel. Like, that's going to be real messed up if you let people get this jewel.
It's going to be demon and people alike.
You gotta watch out for them.
And like Inuyasha's over to the side just like posing real hard. Like he's laying down on the side like posing like a pinup girl.
Hate me like one of your French girls pose.
He really is. And Kaede's like, yeah, you can't really do anything now that I put the necklace on him. But like, he's like, well, I just gotta stick around because, like, you still have the jewel.
Yeah, exactly. I gotta, clearly.
And then we got to catch him up on what's been going on because he's been pinned to a tree for 50 years.
It's like, here's the long and the short of it. And he's like, well, that sucks. I don't care. I'm out of here.
Kikyo's dead? Whatever. Kaede, wow, you're old. Good thing I don't have to be old.
And so, yeah, he just walks out.
Goodbye.
And then everyone around the village is like, Kagome is Kikyo's reincarnation? Oh my goodness, we gotta bow down to her. What's the deal with Kagome? And then Kagome's like, well, this is weird. I'm leaving. I gotta go home.
One of them, like, in the terrible voice acting, is like, that is Kikyo-sama to you. I was like, oh my god, dude.
How do you do that and not realize that it just sounds bad?
So funny. Kikyo-sama to you. But yeah, they're using the fact that the jewel is inside her body as like the proof for this, but also she looks a lot like Kikyo.
Yeah.
Which you'll find out.
So
I mean, you've seen her, but
yes. Inuyasha goes to a tree and hangs out, and then Kagome's like, hey, you want to eat some food? And he's like, fine, whatever. And they have a little chat, and then she smashes his face in the ground again. And she's like, oh crap, sorry about that. That was actually a mistake this time.
Did not mean to do that.
My bad.
Yeah, she gives him some like pears and some other snacks that the villagers gave her because they're like, hey, you're like Kikyo. Here are some
She's
snacks.
like, thanks.
Yay.
Later that night, we see a crow. She's like, oh, that's the jewel. And then Yasha's like, get out of here, crows. Yeah.
Yeah.
The next day, Kagome's like, I gotta go home.
I really need to go home.
So she goes to try and find the well that she came out of, because she's thinking, well, maybe if I fall down the well again, it'll take me home. And then some bandits come and grab her,
Yeah, they do.
and they take her away.
Yeah. At one point, they're like pulling on her skirt, and she's like, don't do that. You're going to rip it. I'm like, what is that skirt made out of? And also one of the dudes jokes, he's like, oh man, your outfit's shorter than my kimono. I'm like, whoa, buddy.
Whoa, buddy. They're like,
Calm
oh man,
down.
our boss wanted you. He wants the jewel. And then the boss is like, oh, well, the jewel. Whoa, I'm just gonna swing as wildly as possible. And they're like, oh my god, he's beating us up. What's going on? And
You
Kagome's like,
murdered a guy.
Kagome's like, we should like get out of here.
Like, there's something wrong with your boss.
So like trying to avoid the long attacks and everything, and trying to get out, and they're failing miserably. And Kagome's like, what if I just take this jewel and just chuck it out the window?
Yeah, like one of the guys gets injured and she like pulls him out of the rubble and is like leading him through, and she tries to tell them like, hey, bust through this wall and get out.
And they try to, and it's just like it cracks, and there's like no can do.
They're like, no, can't do, boss. She's like, I'm not your boss.
And then Inuyasha like busts through the wall. And he's like, "Well, this guy is real weird. It appears like, oh, he's probably got something bad. He's a puppet of some sort." And then you see a crow like poke his head out of the chest, and he's like, "Hey, I'm a crow."
Inuyasha's also only saving her to keep the jewel safe.
Yes, and he's like,
what he doesn't know is that she yeeted it out the.
he's like, all right, you got the jewel safe, right? She's like, about that. They beat up the boss, and the crow escapes, and then he's like, okay, well, let's get the jewel. She's like, I threw it out the window. He's like, what do you mean you threw it out the window? And then the crow eats the jewel, or
Yep.
like puts it in his mouth, and they're like, oh my god.
Yeah, and he's like, Inuyasha is like, no, 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 we can't do that. Like, if he swallows it, he's going to get big.
And then immediately it swallows it.
Yep. He like gets a bow and arrow and is like, all right, Kikyo was pro at this. Have this, shoot it.
And she's like, I've never held a bow in my life. What do you mean? And it fails miserably because of course he's just like,
yeah, she's not good at it.
Just like he like chucks her off him, and it's like he just runs after the bird itself.
Yep.
And she tries to give chase as well. They eventually find their way back into the village. A kid falls into the river, and Inuyasha's like, whatever. And Kaguya's like, all right, I guess I'll get in the river and save this kid. And,
well, the crow like picks up the boy,
yeah.
and then Inuyasha attacks the crow, and so the boy just falls in the river, and he's like, whatever. Kagome jumps
he's more
in,
looking
like,
for the jewel.
Yeah. And so she goes swimming, and this is where we get our hype man.
Well, she gets in the water. She's like, well, I guess it's a good thing I got those lessons and everything. And then like everyone's looking at it and looking at her go into the water and start swimming. She's like, what is this? Is she a water imp? How can she do that? How can she move in the water like that? And she's like, I'm just getting the kid. Whatever, guys.
I can swim. But yeah, there's this guy on the side of the river who was just like super hype and like ready for this.
This is the craziest thing I've ever seen.
He was the real show stealer of this episode.
It's true.
So then the crow starts like putting itself back together as everybody's dealing with the aftermath of that, and
one of the leggies are on the boy still, and the kid's like, and Kagome's like, well, what if I just tie this foot to an arrow and then I shoot it, and then clearly it'll hone its way back up into the bird and kill it, and now
and Inuyasha's like, oh, that's okay, that's pretty smart. But then
so
it happens.
It works.
Yes.
But also she hits the jewel and the jewel just explodes.
Yes.
Because it's the most fragile thing ever.
But not everybody saw that. They're just like, oh man, there was a bright light. What is going on? And Kagome's like, oh, no. Uh-oh, we should probably go look for that. And so like there's a piece of the crow that like shows up and Inuyasha destroys it, and there's like a shard of the Shikan jewel, and he's like, What's this, Kagome?
It's like, I think the jewel broke.
He yells at her.
And then the 7 Dragon Balls are scattered throughout the land, and they have to go. They're going to be turned to stone for a year, and then eventually they'll have to go re-find them again to get the wishes from the dragon. Next time on Dragon Ball Z.
This is the overarching plot of the show is getting the shards of the Shikon Jewel. So we have set up the story for Inuyasha now.
This is how you can make a Monster of the Week show, because you're like, oh, look, this monster has a jewel. Has a shard of the jewel.
Yes and no. There are lots of actual plot points too, but
yes, if you want to make some filler.
Oh yeah, it definitely happens. It definitely happens.
Well, there you go. That's the second episode in the books.
Yeah.
Let's dive into some trivia and differences.
Okay.
In the English dub, the Crow Demon, through the Bandit Chief, tells Kagome to give it the Oni Jewel. This is a mistaken choice of words. Oni is the Japanese term for ogre, and the Shikon Jewel would be more accurately referred to as the Yokai Jewel because its powers are sought by demons. We learned from Kagome that she took swimming lessons.
Yes, we did.
Despite being severely wounded in the previous episode, Kagome's shirt is ripped open, but there is no longer a wound.
Can we just chalk that up to her being a divine priestess technically?
Sure, if you want to go that way out.
Neat.
I don't know. And this is the appearance of the first Shikon shard.
Yay.
Differences from the manga. In the anime, Inuyasha's attempt to steal the Shikon Jewel is extended to include scenes of the villagers attempting to ward him off, as well as a scene on a bridge where Inuyasha inevitably falls through and into a river after Kagome tells him to sit.
That happened, though. Oh, is it?
In the anime.
Never mind. Okay, never mind.
In the anime, the Crow Demon watches Kagome from a tree with a murder of crows. Lovely choice of words there.
Yes, I agree.
Whereas in the manga, it watches Kagome from a window alone. The fight with the bandit boss is quite different in the anime. In the manga, the bandit boss is visibly drunk and first forcibly steals the Shikon Jewel from Kagome before trying to kill her. Kagome also attempts to defend herself with a spear. In the anime, however, the fight with the bandit boss is extended to include the destruction of the abandoned building, as well as Kagome tossing the Shikon Jewel outside to keep it out of the bandit boss's reach. The bandit,
is that what she was doing?
Apparently.
I don't think that's what she was doing.
I mean, I think that's what... If that makes sense.
I thought she was just trying to lure him away from her.
I think it could be both.
Okay.
The bandits also refer to Kagome as their boss, and she helps them many times over and escape from the building without her. None of this occurs in the manga.
Bummer.
In the manga, when the Crow Demon transforms, it looked considerably different than in the anime. It appeared to be a serpent with wings rather than an actual bird. And in the anime, during their chase of the Crow Demon, Inuyasha, irritated that Kagome can't use a bow, properly leaves her behind and chase after it himself. This leads to a scene with a stolen boy ending up much different than the manga. The anime version has the boy falling to a river and Kagome saving him, whereas there is no river present in the manga.
Well, we got the hype man, so obviously the river was the best choice.
Of course, in this, it says characters in order of appearance. Hype man, first appearance. Yes. So that was we got shards of the jewel now. We gotta find them.
We have plot.
We got plot. Next time we will be discussing season 1, episode number 3. It's called Down the Rabbit Hole and Back Again.
Mm-hmm.
There's a new character that's got hair strings apparently.
Yeah, I'm excited for you to see her.
That's all I know.
Yay!
So we will discuss that next time. But for now, if you would like more from us, go to seasonlanguagecheckup.com or sac.cool, where you can find past episodes of this podcast and other podcasts like Season Language Checkup, Season Language Checkup OVA. You can also find columns and reviews on the site as well. If you'd like more from Anladium, go to anladium.com. She's got columns and reviews. Follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/animecheckup. And you can buy our books, One Shiny Moment, A Critical Analysis of Love, Life, Sunshine, and Hot Tubs and Pac-Man on Amazon.com. So join us next time when we'll go down a rabbit hole and then back again, and then down a rabbit hole and back again, and then down a rabbit hole and back again.
Why are we doing it so many times?
And back again.
And back again.
And back again. And backgammon.